Destination mark.
Hey guys, how's it going? Marcelo here. We have some slightly newer news for Crash and Sane Trilogy from Game Informer. So yesterday they interviewed, oh god, I'm gonna botch the name so hard. I'm sorry, like they're watching. Tanguay and Kara Massie. It's spelled Massie. Here's their names right here. They were interviewed for the Game Informer show. And it's, they actually sectioned off this part of, it's like a 2-hour video, but they sectioned off this part, about 40 minutes or so, into its own separate video, so that will be in the description below. I highly implore you guys to see it, because it's very interesting on what they go over, and it's just awesome to hear them talk about Crash, and how freaking dedicated they are to this cause, to, you know, bringing Crash back to, you know, his roots, and it's awesome. It's fucking awesome. I've sung their praises for too long. Just watch. Anyway, they in what they talked about, they did mention some interesting stuff that they haven't mentioned before. So that's why it's newer news from what we've gotten since like PSX and all that. So yeah, let's go. Okay, first off, they are trying to fix the controls. So I think they're going to really try and unify the controls for Crash across all 3 games, because if you really pay attention when you play I've explained this before and it's kind of hard to explain, but I'll try again. In Crash 1 and Crash 3, if you really pay attention to all the games as you play them, especially in Crash 1 and Crash 3, Crash feels a little bit more loose with his control, especially when you jump and you're trying to make it from one point to another, or even if you just try and jump like a little small jump onto, you know, 2 bouncy crates on top of each other. Those are some of the prime examples where you can kind of get a sense of, oh, he kind of feels a little weird when you jump at him or whatever else. In Crash 2, they actually tightened his controls a lot. So when you are jumping in midair and then you decide to like just stop in midair, he'll stop and then he'll go and he'll descend. So it's something you have to pay attention to as you're playing. You might not notice it as you're playing if you're just focusing on, you know, the game. But I'm wondering if they're going to stick to that kind of you know, have in Crash 1 and 3 for Remastered, have him feel that way as he did in those games, and then feel tighter to control into. This is something that they really actually talked about. So I mean, I think what they're just planning to do is make sure that it just feels in general, overall, good for players to just pick up and play. So with Crash, controlling Crash on foot, it should feel good, I guess. I really wish that, and if there are any, link me some stuff. If there's anything out there of the people who were at PSX playing the demo, and they've went on to do like a thoughts video or something of this kind of a stature, and they try to explain how the controls felt. I want to hear from people who actually have gotten a freaking lucky ass chance to play the demo. But that's the best I can explain it. Besides that, with Crash on Foot, they also pretty much confirmed that apparently we're going to be able to use the shoulder buttons to control the jetpack in the 2 jetpack levels from Crash 2. Not only that, but they're actually going to also include a First off, they're going to fix the controls in general for that. Second off, being able to control the jetpack, I think we can use the shoulder buttons. It's something that they mentioned, the shoulder buttons. So, you know, L1, L2, R1, R2. And a third thing that they mentioned about the jetpack is that they're going to actually try and implement settings for inverted controls. So that's pretty cool. It's kind of a modern thing, but if you've played those levels, the controls are really weird and they do take a while to get used to. I'm still trying to get used to them, and I'm pretty okay with them, but I digress. It's pretty tough to get used to, especially for newbies trying to get all the newbies going to get into Crash 2 when they play this trilogy and they start to play that. Hopefully it's not as weird for them as it was when we played the original Crash 2 for the first time. So that's really neat though. It's interesting that they're going to go, you know, all out and really fix the littlest things like that. Because, well, I say it's a little because I'm used to it, but it could be like a big thing for someone who, you know, plays it blind for the first time and then decides to review the game and go, oh yeah, well, but the jetpack levels though, like, yeah, I get it, but for me, it won't be that big of a deal. You know, it's not that big of a deal for the original game. So as someone who is used to the weird controls of the jetpack from Crash 2, from the original Crash 2, I am actually very intrigued to see how they're going to treat the controls for the jetpack in these two remastered levels, and I just want to see how that's going to be. So that is the first thing that I can remember, and I can recall that they really went into detail about nailing down the controls, how it's going to feel to just play and navigate through each and every level of these three games, knowing that they're taking inspiration from the original control scheme and the control system and just how he feels, from a technical standpoint, and how they're going to actually try and upgrade it to where it just feels natural, it feels good, and I wonder if they're going to unify that throughout the three games. So there's that for controls. Again, with the attention to detail, a cool little thing you can do, which we haven't seen in like the B-roll footage or any other kind of footage. I'm not sure if you were able to do such a thing in the demo, but you can actually hold down a button, and then you can actually, during the results screen, if you miss like a bunch of boxes, you can actually speed up the process. If the boxes fall in, they'll fall faster, and Crash's animations will go a little bit faster for him going like, oh no, and he just keeps falling down. So that's really cool. Think of it, for comparison's sake, like when you hold down the button to fast forward the Rayman Legends results screen. It's like that. So, that's really cool. Again, a brief little mention, I wanted to mention that because it's worth mentioning. Having to sit there and be like, all the boxes falling on Crash in the original, and you're just like, 30 or so boxes, I'm just waiting for them to end. Well, now you can speed it up, so that's really cool. It's a possibility. This next thing is a strong possibility, but they said that they might actually try. They might try. If they don't, it's fine, but it'd be really cool to see some little area, whether it's like in-game somehow, or if it's just a setting, something maybe you unlock if you beat all three games 100%, or maybe if you beat, let me say what it is first. The ability to see concept art and maybe even fan art, that'd be really cool. But they said it's not off the table, but they're not making any promises. But now, back to my little theory, it'd be cool if there were 3 separate art galleries or whatever for the 3 different games. So that way if you beat Crash 1 100%, you unlock its art gallery and you can see the concept art and all that stuff. Crash 2, unlock that concept art, and Crash 3, etc. So that'd be really cool to see. Again, small little thing. I'm going to cut back to the next thing right now. Just worth mentioning, so that'd be really cool to see. And again, attention to the smallest of details. Not only are they trying to nail down the look, the feel, and all that stuff, they're going to try and nail down the humor as well. I mean, of course. But they're really trying to like reanalyze. They're trying to think in the way that Jason Rubin and Andy Gavin did all those years ago. They're trying to go back to the original inspirations like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Looney Tunes and Maniacs. They're really trying to see the wackiness of all of that and then try to recapture that into this, so that way they're not just, it feels like a carbon copy and it feels like it is, but only kind of, like, no, they're trying to get this as close as humanly possible to feeling just like the originals. Down to the inspiration, down to, looking at old concept art and all that stuff, back from like Willy the Wombat freaking concept art and all that stuff. They're trying to go through everything they possibly can. Archives and archives of shit, and they're not even really, they said this themselves, they're not even in, they're not in contact with Naughty Dog. The only real thing they ever got from Naughty Dog through Sony, not even from Naughty Dog directly, was not the coding, because they've already confirmed they can't use the original coding, seeing as it's super old and all that, for the game. But they did get, I think, the level data for everything, for the games, and basically just being able to view the level geometry and all that stuff. So that's the only thing they've really gotten from Naughty Dog for inspiration. Well, not for inspiration, but just so that way they have like a blueprint to go off of for level design and all that. But they are not really so much in contact with Naughty Dog, seeing as they've developed, they are who they are now. They're only going to know so much at this point, remember so much from what some of those veterans worked on in the past. So, I mean, there's only so much they can do as of now. But even still, like, it's cool to see the Vicarious Visions and all of these guys are trying to do what they can to make this as close to the originals as humanly possible. I wonder, they mentioned Naughty Dog, and every so often they name-dropped Jason Rubin and Andy Gavin. I wonder if they've talked to them personally, because they never said like, oh yeah, well, we still every so often try and get a hold of either or of them to ask them about this. What was their original inspiration for this, or something like that. They never really said that they talked or got into contact while working on this project with either of them. But I'm wondering if they did. That'd be kind of cool. But as it seems at the moment, I mean, they're going off of what fans want, what we know. They're going off of stuff they see on like fucking Reddit. They said this Reddit, I think it was a NeoGAF or something, and fucking YouTube. So they're just trying to go through everything that we put out there and that, you know, we talk about, that we want to see. And basically they do have some, you know, amount of freedom of control of like, you know, they tell the team, if you think it feels and you know that it fits Crash and it's something a little new, a little different, but it still really sticks to what makes, you know, it still feels like it could belong in this game for of the threes, just go for it and we'll see what happens. So that's how we ended up with, like, you know, the different animations of Crash pulling out the gem out of like his mouth, his butt, his ear, you know. It's little things like that that just make it so, like, they're going above and beyond, and it's fucking awesome. So there's that. A quick little thing, I'm going to cut to the next thing right now, but Pinstripe has been confirmed to be that little animal in the cage. It says Potoroo, but it's official. It's particularly, specifically, Pinstripe in the intro, which I kind of already figured as a little Easter egg of like, hey, here he is, kind of. I mean, he's doused in shadow. You can see his hands on the bars and his eyes, and that's really it, but that's in fact Pinstripe. I thought it was, again, attention to detail, really neat. I kind of already figured that, but now they came out and confirmed it, so that's pretty cool. Ooh, but this next one. So, there came a point where they were talking about the voice actors. Pretty big deal. And, they were, you know, they gave like a blanket, you know, general statement of like, well, we're trying to get who we can, and we've reached out to many of the voice actors, both kind of more recent, like Titans Men Over Mutant, and past, to try and see, you know, who we can get for these characters. That's kind of like a, you know, straight up, you know, because we don't want to give too much away kind of an answer. But then there came a point where they were talking about maybe Clancy Brown would come back as, you know, someone, and they were saying like, well, I think they seemed to imply that originally, before trying to get Lex, they were trying to get Clancy Brown to come back as Cortex, because they said, well, what about that one Cortex voice actor? And what they said was, well, we've got Lex Lane as Cortex. And then Dan chips in and says, yeah, so no Clancy for Cortex. And then he turns to Kara and goes, but I believe he approved of, and he mumbled something. I don't know what he mumbled. And she looked at him and kind of was like, yeah, I don't know. And they just quickly got off that. What I think is that he was implying that Clancy might be Uka Uka in Morphed. So I hope that's the case, because that'd be fucking cool to hear Clancy Brown as Uka Uka again. Same exact lines of dialogue and all that stuff, but redone, revised. It should be awesome. A lot of people still want, you know, Lex Lang to be Uka Uka, because apparently he is Uka Uka in Skylanders Imaginators. So who knows who it's going to be, but it seemed like they were alluding, like they almost, not so much of like a direct tease, but it seemed like they kind of, it was like a typical Sony tease from back in the day when they, you know, during like PSX 2015, how they had the whole like Crash shirt and they were kind of trying to like dance around stuff, and it was like quick responses like, yeah, I don't know, okay. It was like that. So that was the vibe I got. I got those classic teasing vibes of like, he mumbled something and she knew what he was talking about, but she goes, yeah, I'm not sure, I don't know. And they quickly got off that. And even the guy, I'm not sure what his name was, but I might have it up here. The guy who was interviewing them from Game Informer even was like kind of understanding they didn't want to talk about it too much. So he was like, okay, well, next thing. And it seemed like they were trying to allude, or not trying to, but they were accidentally alluding to the fact that, or to the, they seem to be alluding that Clancy Brown might be Uka Uka. I'm losing my words, I'm sorry, but that was really cool. So, who knows if whatever, I don't fucking know. But it'd be cool if Clancy Brown was Uka Uka again, so, yeah. And the last highlight I want to talk about, which is pretty interesting, is, now, Crash and DLC have never been a thing before, and I, for one, am not too, like, I don't know how that's gonna work, but when asked about any DLC stuff, any update stuff, how about Crash Team Racing as DLC, which was kind of a legit question that was asked of them. They didn't dance around it, but they were kind of like, well, we can't commit to anything, but we want to do what we want to try and do, and we'll see about, the team's always asking, oh, how about this? How about we add this? And again, very blanketed, like, generic statements, but they said they're off the table, so maybe, again, a lot of the stuff that, if anything that anyone was asking for that was extra, mainly came for Crash 1, for them to, actually complete, and include Stormy Ascent and the freaking prototype levels that were cut and not finished. Like, those would be cool to see come back. Those, if that was DLC, that would legit be like super cool to see. I would be down for that. The reason why I'm so tentative with DLC, especially for something like Crash, is because DLC is very, very... I've done videos on DLC before. It's a very, very risky kind of a thing, especially if you don't do it right. Now, I'm not saying that if they decide to do this, they're not going to do it right, because of course, like I just said, they're taking super care and attention into doing this stuff in the first place. So they're going to want to pick and choose what they feel and think is going to be right to have as DLC for this trilogy. But I'm just wondering how they're going to go about this, and I'm wondering what they want to include as extras, because it seems like they want to do something like that, but of course, as per usual, they can't exactly confirm it because they don't want to give too much away of what's going on. But I'm just wondering if there is some kind of DLC stuff or extras, all I can really see happening, which has already happened in past games, are any kind of, well, not this, point, but like levels that were not included before, but included now. But some Crash games have done this before, have concept art. Extras and concept art, that's something I can definitely get behind, with Twin Sanity, with Titans of Maneuver Mutant. That was cool to see. So those are the kinds of extras I'm thinking. I don't know if they're going to do like costumes, or like, like Titans of Maneuver Mutant did, or I don't even know what else they can put in as extras. At some point, when you 100% or whatever to the first Crash game, you can unlock the abilities to have him crouch and slide and all that. Like, people were saying, oh, how cool would it be if Crash retained his Crash 2 and Crash 3 abilities in the first Crash. But when I hear that, I think, well, it's going to take away a lot of the challenge that, the level design is, for the first game, is not meant to have him double jumping and super spinning and sliding and crouching, because then you're going to blaze through those like that, and it's not going to be much of a challenge. Now, that can be an extra, that'd be cool, but of course to have him do that right out the gate, it's not going to happen. We haven't seen it happen so far in the footage we've seen. I don't think it's going to happen like that. As extras, like as a game plus for Crash 1, that'd be cool. That'd be actually really cool. And if it helps with time trials at all, that'd be cool. So, besides that, okay, I've gone too far off on that topic alone. So, and it's the last topic for this video. So, recap, controls, fucking voice actors, attention to detail, level data, Tanguay and Kara Massie, I don't know how to pronounce her name. It looks fucking cool so far, and from what they've, really gone into detail with, and what they've explained and described, and it's just an awesome, it's awesome. Just fucking watch it. Link down below. or listen to it if you're busy with other shit. Just listen to it. It's really cool. So yeah, that's really it. What did you guys think of all this stuff? Have you seen the video? Again, link down below to it. So check it out. Just check it out and let's get hyped. They did not talk about the release date, so we're still not going to get any confirmation about a release date. The standard edition whole dealio was not ever talked about either, so that's not a thing that has been mentioned. But we've gotten some little things here that they've confirmed, that they've kind of teased or at least mentioned that they might do, might not do. It all depends on just how things go. So overall, again, it's super careful attention to detail, and it's passionate. You know, a lot of those people there are Crash fans, and they've tried to assemble their team. The team that is working on this trilogy, they went and handpicked all of the people there that knew Crash, that love Crash, that possibly worked on the previous Crash games from them, you know, like Nitro Kart and all that. So I mean, it's fucking cool. I'm gonna stop rambling. I'm Marcelo. We'll see you guys later. Here's to the next bit of info, whatever it is that we get for the trilogy. You bet your ass I'll be there. I'm Marcelo. Take care.